Okay, are we ready? We are ready. You guys here on time, so was I, so let's get started. So I'm going to break this lecture out into two parts. This is the first part. It's called the Introduction to the Course. And then the second part will be the first lecture of the course. So this is intended to provide you guys with an overview of what you're going to have in here and where to find the materials, what subject matter is going to be covered, and just a basic rundown on the course and going over the syllabus. And of course this syllabus has come from bhacker.com and bhacker.com out here under the Android phone application development link. You'll see course syllabus. That is what I'm going over right now. I'm not going to hit the Android tool install. Rather than that, I'm going to show you how to install it by showing you the video links that have already been created. How many people actually already have the Android development kits already installed? Nobody? No anxious students who want to get all their software ready to go before the first day of class? Alright, well, yeah, that'll be fun. It'll take you, maybe it'll probably take about an hour because you got to download this stuff, install it. So it won't be too bad. So this is Android application development, and it is, according to the course description, introduces the use of the SDKs released by Google to facilitate the development of applications for the Android phone. This would apply towards tablet development as well. As an example, the Galaxy Tab and some of the other Android-based tab systems out there. You have to make sure you get the right API, however, for each one of the systems. But everything is written in Java, so it's actually quite easy if you know or are familiar with Java. It is fairly easy to translate those skills over into Android. I was going to say iPhone for a minute there. Android application development. iPhone is not done in Java, so that one's not quite as easy to translate over. So you guys have a Java background? Yeah? So they shake head yes this way or no this way. Yes? Okay, good. So you guys are all set and ready to go. Alright, not necessarily required to have a strong Java background, however, it's recommended. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of lost in the beginning until you learn how to program in Java. If you do have some C or C++ programming skills, those translate really well into Java, actually, because it's, if you haven't noticed, it's pretty much the same language, syntax, very similar in terms of the basic core programming. The object-oriented stuff is very different, though, but most of the core programming syntax is about the same. Alright, so what do we have going on here? Android phones are Linux-based, programmed in Java, Linux operating system itself, most powerful, easier to manage. I'm not really going to get into the platforms and the phones themselves. In fact, you don't even need a phone or any hardware at all for this course, and actually you don't need to purchase any software either. Java's free, and so is the Android application development. We're going to be using Eclipse as the IDE, and that's also free. And in fact, there's no textbook for this course either, really, that you have to purchase, so that's free too. So, learning outcomes, you can read through that on your own. Let's see. Required equipment, any Google phone is suggested but not required. Unlike the iPhone, it's actually quite easy to put the app onto the phone. You don't have to go through a special licensing, and you don't have to pay Apple to put an app onto a Google phone. So if you do have a Google phone, you might want to experiment with it, and I'll be going through that later in the course. But there's a simulator that you could use for this class that will do everything you need it to do. So I do have a book here, and maybe I should change it because it says required text. It's actually kind of a suggested text. For those students who really want a textbook, you're looking at this particular book is Hello Android. It's built on the 2.0 Android 2 platform. The problem with books, and this is the reason why I don't like to recommend, or don't like to require, I should say, a book, is that every couple months there's a new version of the SDK out. There's new changes. So if you buy a book and it's only going to last you maybe a couple months at the most, it's not going to last you very much through your entire programming career. And then there's a lot of free resources online. In fact, this book here I know is available online. In fact, you can get it through like the Barnes & Noble and stuff, Amazon e-text version for like $5 or $6, I think, believe it or not. It's pretty reduced because this is an older book. However, the basic foundational stuff is the same. So with each one of the new APIs, they keep adding and changing a few things around and making improvements, essentially. And they seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But long story short, the basic core programming technique and the basic components are about the same. But the examples may or may not compile correctly depending upon the version of the API that you're using. The good thing about the Android application development environment, however, is you can go back and use any version of the API as long as you install it. So you're not really stuck having to use the current one for this particular course. If you decide you found a book that you liked and it's based off on an older version of the API and you want to use that older version because it matches with the syntax and everything that you're using, go ahead, go for it. I don't care. The assignments that you can do for this course can be done in any version of the API. Which brings us to the assignments link. And go ahead and stop me as I go through here if there's something I'm missing or something you don't understand. So, yes, we have a final exam for this course. Most people understand that part. It's 45% of the course. Pretty good chunk, I'd say, done during the last week of the class, during the final exam week. And it's an in-class final exam. You cannot take it home. You can't do it off-site or remotely. You have to actually come to campus for it. And we do have a CSLO essay that's also worth 25% of your course grade. Both of those two items, the final exam and the CSLO, will be announced later on in the course, around the halfway point or so. This class is actually kind of easy in that there's only 5 programming projects that are worth 10 points. This is the chunk here of your grade. It's 50% of your grade. Most people can write an essay without having to learn how to program. And this is the essay here. It has nothing to do with programming, essentially. Programming is this 50% here. There's no programming on the final exam either. It'll be multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank kind of thing. But no programming is going to be required. So it's kind of broken 50-50. Half the class is hands-on, the other half is writing stuff. For the assignments, as we go through the course, I'll be demonstrating most of the stuff you'll have to do for the assignments. So if you come to class, you'll be able to figure out, or if you watch the videos, you'll be able to figure out how to actually assemble the assignments. And the assignments aren't really that hard. I'll be going through the first one today, and it's a simple Hello World assignment. So that's a little Hello World plus a little bit, but it's not too bad. So. Academic dishonesty, we all know we're supposed to do our own work at this stage in the game, and anyone who does not do their own work is not going to get any credit for it. There's a ton of examples out there, tons of Android examples on the internet. The assignments are kind of particular. In fact, I've changed them. They are not the same assignments I used last time I taught this course. So they're a little harder to find the assignments, but they're based upon book examples, so long story short, you probably could find some source code out there. Don't turn the source code in as your work. Do your work yourself, because then you'll actually learn something, and you'll actually benefit from taking the course. Grading formula is pretty standard. I don't give out A pluses because there's no such thing as an A plus. Actually, 4.0 is the highest you can get at this school. So don't expect an A plus. But if you get 95 or above, you'll get an A. Or 90 to 94, you'll get an A minus. So if you turn in all the work and you show up for the final exam and show up for the CSLO essay, then you have a good chance of actually getting into that A minus category, actually. So it's not what I'd call the most difficult course you've ever taken, hopefully. It should be a fun class, actually. Hopefully will be the most fun class you've ever taken, maybe. Who knows? So let's see, we have the course schedule and the assignment due date, so you notice I don't actually have any dates on here. In fact, the LMS is where you're going to need to upload stuff. You guys have all heard this stuff before, so I don't really have to go through that much detail. But the links aren't even created yet either, so give it a couple weeks. I'll be creating some links in the LMS and for you to upload your assignments. Excuse me. But this is the layout I'm going to use for the course, however. Today is week number 1, and we'll be doing, this is the first lecture, the Introduction to the Android Phone Application Development Environment. Then we're going to, next week, probably going to go over Hello World and stuff. I don't know if I'm going to spend too much time installing the tools and configuring the development environment, because I've already assembled videos that do this for you already. And I'll point you when I get done with the syllabus, I'll point you to those links so you know where to find them. And so third week, and this is probably not a bad schedule to kind of stay on in terms of your own individual work and meeting the assignment descriptions and stuff. By the third week, you're going to want to be doing assignment number 1, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. In fact, you could probably get that done today if you wanted to. It's not too hard. But going over key components, running the emulator, running a real phone. I'm going to try and demo it on a real phone, but we'll see how that works. And then getting into key programming concepts, Android basics. We're going to start out initially we're going to start out with the user interface because that's generally the most fun part of it. It's all in XML base, kind of a drag and drop components onto a canvas kind of environment. So it's pretty fun, pretty easy to work with. And then we'll look a little bit in terms of the controls for the interface as well. Obviously there's no use to have a nice little interface if there's no control to it. So the 2D graphics, I'm not going to really get into 3G, although you see down here on the bottom it says 3D graphics OpenGL. I'm going to touch a little bit on the OpenGL libraries because it's sort of the foundational graphic stuff, especially if you want to do some game programming in this environment. We'll look at multimedia, and we'll also look at storing data and the use of databases as well. Browsing the intent web and with a view, looking at web services, looking at how to open up a web browser, stuff like that, getting stuff from the internet, the concept of intents, which I didn't mean to sort of butcher in my description there, but also looking at the app market stuff and figuring out how to actually tap into services and things that are features of the phone, essentially. Putting SQL to work. We'll look at database applications and connecting to a database as well. And multi-touch a little bit. And miscellaneous techniques, publishing to the Android market. So it's going to be mostly an introduction / overview to Android application development, just enough to kind of get your feet wet to at least have some confidence in terms of what you're doing. We should be offering very soon a more experienced course, but we don't have enough students who have taken this course to actually offer out an Android Programming Part 2. But that one, when that one becomes available, it's going to be mostly advanced level stuff, although we will look at some advanced, or what most people would call advanced topics. Those advanced topics would be something in the nature of, actually using databases is fairly intermediate level, but there's not, outside of maybe the mapping services, maybe some of the GPS stuff, Bluetooth connectivity, file exchanging and stuff like that, or communicating via Bluetooth. Kind of interesting as well, kind of added stuff, but we'll tap on the subjects. However, wait for the second part of this course when it becomes available eventually for the more advanced, I would call, features. But this course is certainly enough to get you going in terms of, and once you have the foundational material, it's really easy to apply that to what I'm calling advanced, which really is not advanced. I would just say more features. It's hard to cover in 15 weeks how to program in the environment, and all of the advanced features. So, questions or comments or concerns about the syllabus? Nope. Everyone's good on the syllabus and everyone's got an A so far. That's good. Because, well, you haven't had anything due yet. Usually I get some people asking me on the first day of class. Normally they're the brand new people who've never taken a class with me before. When does everything due? Don't worry about it. I'll give you the due dates as we go through the course. So as you notice here, there's no assignment due dates. Although these 5 assignments will be due and all 5 of them will be due. So in some of my other classes I've said, do 3 of the 5 or do 4 of them. Now this one I've made it so that they're doable. All 5 of them are doable. So without further ado, let me take a look at some other rudimentary course introduction information for you just to summarize, finish up my introduction part of this lecture. You have found hopefully you have found the website www.bhacker.com because you guys are all returning students. The syllabus, that's what I just went over a few minutes ago. Let me make this a little bigger. Now, just to give you a little bit lay of the land here of the Android application development, Android phone application development course materials. This is more up-to-date than what's in the LMS, so I would use this at the beginning. All of this stuff will be in the LMS eventually, once the LMS gets configured. This Android tools install, because when I first originally asked you guys who had it installed, nobody raised their hand. In fact, everyone went, no, I don't have anything installed yet. So let me tell you, this is the first step you're going to do. You want to get your development environment installed. And these notes are great. The links still work. About December-ish, I reassembled some videos on how to install it, and I updated this document to include the most current links. However, time does not stand still, and Eclipse as a tool, you know, they constantly upgrade and develop, and Java constantly changes, and the Android releases constantly change, so the version numbers might be different. As I mentioned before, use whatever version you'd like. Don't be alarmed if you can't find this Eclipse version here. I think we're up to, I think it's Helios or something. I'm not quite sure which one I have. But if you want to do a quick and easy install, you could follow these steps. If you're going to follow these steps, I highly recommend following the video that goes along with those steps. So you'll notice down here, and this is the other interesting part about this course as well, and something that I'd like to mention to you today. You can use any platform that you want. You may have noticed I'm using a Mac. Actually, I have a Windows partition on this MacBook as well. You can use Ubuntu, Linux, especially if you're taking a Linux operating system course, you might want to be using Linux anyway. In fact, I was really shocked how easy it was to install the Android development environment on the Linux in Ubuntu. But these videos here are going to show you, and if you click on the links, it'll take you to the YouTube site. Windows install. Mac install looks like the biggest one here in the category, in terms of the categories. And Ubuntu only had two parts to it. So I might tell you Ubuntu is actually the easiest one to install. You know why? It's because everything was built into the Ubuntu libraries already. So the application, both Eclipse and Java and everything was just downloadable right through the Ubuntu tools. So if you're looking for a quick and easy, and if you've got a Ubuntu system set up, and even if you don't, you might want to experiment with creating a partition on a Ubuntu, because it's actually, I want to say, easier than Windows, but I'm not a huge Windows fan. So as I be going through the course and I start demoing applications, I'm going to use probably all three environments. Most likely I'll probably stick to the Mac, but they're all going to be the same because they're all using the same tool sets. And the tool sets that are going to be used is Java. You don't need the EE version, Enterprise Edition. However, if you're taking the EE programming class and you have the EE version installed, leave it alone, you're just fine. You won't be using the EE tools for this particular course, but the core Java is the same. So I already have had one student who's not here today, actually. He says, well, I have EE installed. I mean, how am I going to get the SDK installed too, the JDK? It's like, no, don't bother. It's all the same stuff. It's just different packages are being installed with the EE. So you still got the base JDK with the EE version. If you don't, your EE's not working anyway. So long story short, leave your Java alone. If you have a MacBook, leave your Java alone. Because Java already comes installed on the MacBook, so you don't have to worry about that. In fact, if you got Ubuntu, most likely you're going to have Java installed on that as well, or any other version of Linux. So Java's fairly, even the development kit, even the development stuff is installed by default now these days. So most of your operating systems outside of Windows is going to be slightly more sophisticated in terms of development environment tools. Yeah, I already told you I don't like Windows, but I really don't find it helpful to have to install everything on a Windows environment. Nothing comes, there's no Java. In fact, when you install Windows, unless they've changed Windows 7, you don't even get the JVM. You don't even get like the browser support for Java. You have to install that as well. Anyway, no more harping on Windows. But if you click on these links, this is where you're going to want to install. I would suggest within the first couple of weeks of the course to go ahead. You don't have to do it this week. You can probably do it next week if you want. But go ahead and get the tools installed. Because if you get the tools installed, if you bring your laptop to class with you, then you can get all the work done here in class, actually, because I'm going to be going over all of the assignments as we go through the course. Today I'm not going to do very much programming. It's going to be a PowerPoint lecture. But It's to your benefit to have a working system. It just helps you, especially if you want to learn it. And after you get your Java and your Eclipse and your Android tools and everything installed, and you've watched one of these or two of these videos or so, the one down here, it says Hello World Project Number 1. It says this tutorial will help you with the first project assignment for this course. It's not what do they call this, a lost leader, you know, where they try to trick you, marketing people, and say this one will make your teeth white, this one will wash your floors, you know. And it's not actually like that. This one will actually help you with the first assignment because it is the first assignment. So what you're looking at here, if you go into the assignments link, and I'm going to click on that real quick, just to preview, because usually students want to know, well, what do I have to do? Let me just show you an example. This is the first assignment. They're not all going to be this easy. Some of them are going to entail different features of iPhone development. This one here is kind of interesting in that it is actually running through how to create a Hello World application and how to tour the application. And why is my I'm wondering why my mouse is doing this, but I probably clicked on something. But long story short, what we're looking at here, and I'm not going to go through the entire assignment with you right now. Instead, I'm going to figure out why my mouse is funny. Let's just do this real quick. I appear to be frozen. Well, let's see if I can move this. No, my computer's frozen. Nice, lovely. Not a good sign. Oh, no, I'm still recording. That's good. Okay, well, I'm going to end this video very soon because I'm frozen, pretty much so in Word. But what we're looking at, and just to wrap this up for a little bit here for the introduction to the course, is if you run through this assignment and you watch the first video on this assignment, you'll have one assignment out of the way. And the assignment is essentially going to take you through a tour of the API, a tour of all the features, and how to actually create a project and how to run it. If you don't want to use Eclipse and you don't want to use this technique, you don't have to. However, you're going to have to rely upon your own resources and your own background in order to figure out how you're programming, essentially. Because all of the tutorials that I'm going to give you, all of the demos I'm going to do in class are all going to be using Eclipse. So, and Eclipse, believe it or not, is very supported in terms of Android development community. Everybody uses Eclipse for it because it builds right into the interface. Stuff like that. All right, given my frozen state on my computer, I'm going to end this video and start again after I fix the problems.